Well, thank you very much, Brent, for hosting us here today, and please pass on our thanks as well to Stephen. It's always a pleasure to come here, and we appreciate you hosting us. I also want to thank everyone that's here today, certainly for coming, and a special recognition to a few people that I'd like to do. We've got our Associate Minister here with us, Don Scott, is joining us as well as Dr. Howard Tennant, the Chair of our committees, Dr. Greg Taylor, who you had the opportunity here to hear for the briefing. Dr. Arlene Ponting is here as well, Mr. Doug Tupper, and joining us on the phone is Mr. Paul Clark. And with regrets in Italy, Dr. Ron Wallace. These are the folks that are joining us, and the folks that are really going to be moving forward with us to the next phase of environmental monitoring in this province. So I thank all of them for saying yes to this important project, and in particularly Dr. Howard Tennant for agreeing to chair with us. Today is an important day for Alberta and our ongoing work to strengthen environmental oversight in our province. I'm so pleased to say that government has accepted the scope and the mandate of the recommendations given to us in the working group report. We are committed to, and have already started moving forward on an arm's-length environmental monitoring system for the province of Alberta, a system that is centrally coordinated, a system that integrates air, water, land, and biodiversity. When it comes to resource management and the environment, Alberta recognizes that the status quo is simply not enough to meet the challenges we face. And today, I am pleased to share the progress we are making. Under Premier Redford's leadership, we are taking a new approach to how we develop our natural resources in Alberta. We call it integrated resource management. It's an approach that will help us address our current and future challenges. Simply put, integrated resource management provides a more coordinated and integrated focus to all of the work we do around resource development, including environmental management. At the end of the day, we want to ensure Albertans receive the best economic, environmental, and social benefit from the development of our resources. And it's no small task to do this. Integrated resource management encompasses many different initiatives, including completed regional plans under a provincial land use framework, the Regulatory Enhancement Project, which includes establishing a single regulator for oil, gas, oil sands, and coal, and a province-wide environmental monitoring, evaluation, and reporting system. It is this final point, a provincial environmental monitoring system, that brings us here today. We are here to take the next steps in our journey to build that system. In March, the province created a working group of experts to help us answer important questions on how a world-class monitoring system could be built in Alberta. First and foremost, I really want to recognize Dr. Howard Tennant and Dr. Ron Wallace and the rest of the distinguished working group for their time and hard work. We asked that group to provide workable and achievable options to build a monitoring system that is designed to succeed and build to last. A system that has scientific oversight and a system that is accessible, open, and transparent. This will be a system like no other in Canada and indeed around the world, and it needs to be. We will continue to demonstrate to Albertans, Canadians, and the world that we can and will develop our natural resources in a responsible and sustainable way, and that we are serious about our commitment to the environment, and that we will do so with an eye to the environment that is second to none. That is why implementation of the new Environmental Monitoring Agency will begin in the Lower Athabasca region, as did the first of our regional plans. This will give added assurance that we have the most scientifically credible monitoring system in the world for this global resource. As the agency evolves, so will its scope, eventually taking responsibility for environmental monitoring across the province. The working group's report will help advance our efforts to become a world leader in environmental monitoring. I'm so grateful for the working group's outstanding efforts, and I thank them for this report. it provides foundational recommendations for building a stronger environmental monitoring system in Alberta. And I want to be clear, we are moving forward on the group's recommendations immediately. With that in mind, we have created a management board to direct the creation of a permanent environmental monitoring agency in Alberta. The management board is a necessary step to help ensure the foundation of the agency is laid properly and the transition goes as smoothly as possible. Like any structure that stands the test of time, it must be built on a solid foundation. The management board will develop the business case for the Environmental Monitoring Agency, establish and bring into being the Environmental Monitoring Agency, develop bylaws for the Monitoring Agency Board, determine governance in partnership with the Government of Alberta, develop the initial 3-year business plan and corresponding budgets, recommend the terms of reference for and membership of a science advisory board, and ensure engagement of appropriate interested parties in developing the agency. We anticipate the board operating until the agency is legally established under the laws of Alberta, and an agency board of directors is in place and ready to assume the responsibilities assigned to the agency. We expect this process will take about 6 to 8 months, but we will give them the time they need to get it right. Compliance monitoring required compliance monitoring required under industry approvals will continue to occur with ESRD. The work of the new monitoring board is in addition to the compliance monitoring. I am proud, as I said before, to announce that leading the board as chair is Dr. Howard Tennant. Dr. Tennant is the former president and vice chancellor of the University of Lethbridge and is no stranger to any of us. And as most of you know, he served on the Environmental Monitoring Panel and Working Group, and he has done such an outstanding job with his team moving this forward. We felt it was important, and I felt it was important, to have members who worked on the previous group for continuity and to ensure the group can hit the ground running. Knowing how passionate Dr. Tennant is about enhancing environmental monitoring in the province, I have no doubt that he and the team will ensure a very credible system is built. Other members of the board were selected based on their qualifications and successful careers as leaders in environmental research, the academic world, as administrators, and in business development and innovation. They represent a broad cross-section of the skills, experience, and talent needed to guide the development of the agency. I have great respect for each of those selected to contribute to this important group. I greatly appreciate that they are willing to share their expertise for such a worthwhile endeavor. We want the best possible advice and guidance from the board based on members' skills, experience, and knowledge. I, like all Albertans, look forward to the outcome of their work. The first meeting of the board will take place sometime in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The board will set its own agenda. However, we will propose to the board that establishing a science advisory group is a top priority. Dr. Tennant, I expect, will have more to say on that, but before I ask him to say a few words, I'd like to conclude with this. Alberta is on the cusp of what I believe is a game changer in environmental monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. Building on the joint federal-provincial enhanced monitoring system already underway in the oil sands, coupled with our comprehensive land use plan that focuses on cumulative effects management in the lower Athabasca region, Alberta is already positioned as a global leader in environmental management. This new arm's-length agency will take us to a new level. It will show Albertans, Canadians, and the world that we are developing our resources responsibly and we are taking action. And we will continue to do what we need to do in order to protect the air we breathe, the water we drink, the land we cherish, and the abundant wildlife and fish that make our province so unique. This is a solid commitment and pledge of our Premier, Premier Redford, myself as Minister, and this government. And now I'd like to pass it on to Dr. Tennant to say a few words as well. Dr. Tennant.
Well, thank you, Minister. Minister, I'd like to congratulate you for the speed with which you put this together. In the short time that you've been Minister, you've worked with the committee, and we've been able to do something in a very short period of time that, based on my experience in universities, might take 36 to 48 months to do. Each report has been responded to in a quick manner. This last report was tabled June 30th, and by the time you get through summer and recovery from a couple of elections and a minister who had merged two portfolios together, Minister, you did a superb job in working with us to create this interim board, and we thank you for that. To the work of the committee, it's going to be a daunting task to set something up. We'll follow principles that we follow very much in the private sector, and at the same time those that are be found working within the government departments. It's pretty clear that funding is going to be one of the issues that comes here, and one of the things we will struggle with. Dr. Taylor did a nice summary of how we felt about where the different sources are. One of the things that we have to do is get aggressive about those sources. Industry has indicated that they would be put money into it. We have to talk to industry about what it is that they have in mind, because they have an interest in this as well. You and I have an interest in all of this stuff. One of the things which happens is when we end up to talk about where does pollution comes from, it comes from you and I. And down the lines as we take a look at things that expand through a province, imagine the issues that we have. Let me describe one issue that we'll have to deal with in the future. Women have been taking birth control pills for 50 years. Estrogen is something that goes into the water system and stays there. It doesn't get filtered out by water purification systems or wherever. And all of a sudden in Alberta, we're getting well over 3 million people concentrated in cities on fragile water systems. And the impacts of having estrogen and other things in our water system is something that we have to know something about. So clearly, it's more than just the lower Athabasca where we start, but the principles of what we learn there have to apply downstream from Calgary. In the area where I live, where there's a cattle industry with 750,000 cattle that are in the area, with watering from irrigation, a variety of things, there's a variety of things that need monitoring. I'll conclude, Minister, by a bit of a family perspective. My great-grandfather came to Alberta in the 1870s. He was a rancher. My grandfather railroaded out of here. My father was a manufacturer and a distributor of automotive parts through his career, and I was lucky enough to spend a career in universities. And so the Alberta thing that has gone through multiple generations my family has seen, we've seen a clean and pristine Alberta. And the problem is not companies, it's not government, it's the expansion and the growth of what's happening in Alberta. We're growing both by population, and we are one of the wealthiest corridors anywhere in the world. And one of the things to manage that properly so that we'll be in good shape 25 years from now, we have to have a monitoring system that will do the job. Minister, it's to the credibility of the government of Alberta that you decided to let us have an arm's length independent board. I think that will give you advice that you need on how to engage and listen to the science that's out there. And as we publish anything that comes out, that everyone will see the results of it. It's not to be things which are inside government. And Minister, you can expect to hear from our board on a regular basis. Again, working with the department has indicated through all of its emissaries its willingness to work in this new structure. And we're going to be struggling to make this new structure work. Minister, we're looking forward to the busy times ahead.